What we're going to have a look at is the adjustment brush. Now this is quite a unique tool within Lightroom, and once you understand how to use it, it will become part of your standard workflow. So the tool itself is located on the right hand side, and it's a brush with a dotted circle at the end. And basically how the tool works is whatever the brush touches, it will apply some form of effect to your image. Now the shortcut for this is the letter K. Once you hit the letter K, the drop down will appear. Otherwise you can simply just click the brush itself to open and close it. You also have the options down the bottom to reset the tool, close it, or down the bottom of the image itself, hit done, and you will find that it will also close the image for you once you've completed. Now Lightroom 4 has made a little bit of a change to Lightroom 3. What you used to find here in the first effects panel was you'd have all these functions listed with sliders. So what Lightroom 4 has done is decluttered that and just allows you to choose one at a time to go through and make your adjustments. You can still make multiple adjustments to an image, but it just gives you a little bit less clutter when you're dealing and working with your imagery, instead of having this panel really long. But the main area we're after at the moment for understanding how this tool works is in the brushes. Now we have three brushes provided. We have an A brush, a B brush, and an erase. So really what it does, it gives you a chance to set up two brushes, and you can set them up to perform in different ways. So you can have a different size, and we may have what we call feathering, maybe soft or hard feathering, or soft or hard edges. And I'll explain how that works right now for you. So let's go and choose brush A across here, and I'm just going to make this brush a little bit smaller, and you can use the slider to do that if you like, and you can see my brush changing in sizes, or you can use the square brackets on your keyboard. So if you notice, there's three circles with this brush. So those circles all play an important part of understanding how the brush works. The center dot in the middle, the colored one in that's grayed with a plus in it, that is really used, or that's the center of the brush itself, and that's going to play an important part when we use the auto mask function. We then have the next circle out, or the inner circle, and basically everything out to that circle will be 100% color. Then the space between the inner circle and the outer circle, this is where we have softening of the color, or what we call feathering, where it sort of starts to fade out and allows it to blend in with the image. So how does that actually work? What am I talking about with feathering? Well, I'll give you a demonstration. I'll slide my brush a little bit smaller here and move across there. I'm going to come up to my exposure. I'm going to drag it right across so it's black, and I'm simply going to come here, and this here, I have the slider at 100% feather. So what happens is when I draw across here, notice that the outside edges are quite soft and they blend right out. That's feathering. We always want some form of feathering when we're dealing with color and painting things in. It just softens those edges. If I was to drag the feathering all the way across to 0, this time when I draw the line, notice now it just has nice sharp edges on it. So be aware that's the difference when we talk about feathering, and we do want some form of softness in our brush. So usually what we'd find is we'd have feathering up to around about 70% or something, and we just have those nice soft edges drawn. Now once you've used this brush, notice that there'll be a dot located here. If you point to that dot, notice it turns pink. Well, that tells you where the tool's been applied, and you can see exactly where it's applied for that particular tool. To get rid of it, all you got to do is point to that center dot and simply press the delete key, and it's gone. That's how easy it is to remove it. Now, so that's the understanding of feathering. So be aware that we do want some form of feathering, but sometimes you might want those straight lines and you might want to turn that off. The next question is flow. What is flow? Well, I'm going to drag the feathering off at the moment just so we understand flow a little bit better. And what flow is, say I put flow down to 40%. Flow is the amount of colour that comes out at one time. So if I just quickly draw a line across here, notice that it's a little bit faded. It's not pure black, what we've been seeing. But as I run across again, notice it starts to darken. So it's like spray paint. Here I am applying colour across, and I can just keep going across and across until it gets to that 100% mode. So that's what flow is. It actually allows you to choose the amount of colour that you want to come out. The one that does confuse people, and they're not quite sure what the difference between flow and density is, density is a little bit different. I'm just going to drop my flow back to, say, 30 or around about 30%, and I'm going to drop this density back to about 70. So what density is, it's the amount of colour we are actually going to use. Instead of going to that real black at 100%, we've dropped it back. So at 70, it's not going to go to pure black, it's probably going to go to a grey black. So if I have flow set at a lower rate, when I run my flow across, yes, I've got that light colour. Once I come back, see how it darkens, and I can keep running it across. But notice now, it's not going all the way to pure black. It's only going to that 70%. So density lets you control the amount of colour in a percentage form, while flow is actually the spray rate. Now, when we're using these tools, I'm going to put the density back to 100, flow back to 100, just so we've got here, and put my feathering back up to 50, and we're in action. So this is really unique with what we can do. So, straight away here, we can control this brush, we can control the flow, how much happens, how it all works. But that's not the real secret to this tool. The real secret is, these are just brushes. These are just the way that we apply an effect to an image. Now, I'm going to come up here, I'm going to go to, just go back to exposure, drag it back to the center, there. I'm going to come up and I'm going to choose saturation. And when we drag the colour out of saturation, it turns things black and white. I'm going to make my brush nice and big here, which I can do. Now, what happens is, with this brush normally, whatever I touch is going to have that effect applied to it. So realistically, when I bring this image across and I start going across it with this brush, it starts dragging the colour out, and wow, I'm turning this image into a black and white image. And I can go across very quickly and turn the whole image, desaturate it, turn it to black and white. And you think that's amazing. Wow. But that's not the real secret of the tool. Set back to reset. The real trick to this tool is, if I hit this little auto mask, and this is where now that little center dot plays a big part. I'm going to make my brush just a little bit smaller here. And what I'm going to do is, I'm now going to drag and desaturate all the green out of this shot, turn it to black and white. So as I start going across there, notice that wherever the center of the brush touches is the only area that's being desaturated. Notice the lips are still pink. We're still in there. Wow. So what this tool allows me to do is to go through and have a lot more control and pull the colour out of something. Wow, how cool is that? I want to make sure I've got it all, just point to it. The mask will tell me, yep, I've pulled the colour out of all of that. How cool is that? But I've still got pink eyes. I've turned that to black and white. Now the real fun part of this is, I can come back and I can drag that saturation back in. I can make it darker. I can come back up here. I can play with the exposure of the shot. I can drag it, make it darker, make it lighter through the exposure. I can come here. I can pick a colour. So there's all these different functions that are available. Colour, you hit on the little clicker. I can come in and start ticking, and I can start applying different effects to this image, righto, and change the colour of it. So this is quite a unique little function. With that auto mask on, I now control certain bits. If I want to do a new one, all I simply do is come up here, click new mask again, and this time I'm going to come in and I'm going to grab the eyes. Okay, so grab those eyes, grab the other side. Notice that the tool is allowing me to do both those sides without having to hold any special keys down, etc. Again, I can come up here, I can, add colour, drag it in, desaturate it, come up here, choose exposure, maybe back a bit of colour off, add a bit more to it, come down here, pick another colour. I can come in and change a lot of things. I can change these eyes to a lot pinker than I want, or I can change them to a green. So it's a really, really good tool, and it's nice to understand how it works. So, and anytime you want to get rid of them, remember you just got to come and point to it, press delete, it's gone, and you can have multiple adjustments applied to an image. So where does this come in really, really handy for us? Well, let's just go and have a look at another quick image that I've got here. I've been sort of semi-working on. Okay, say you have an image and it's a bit dark and you want to highlight something in the image. Well, all I'm going to simply do is go to my adjustment brush here, go and pick my exposure. It doesn't really matter whether I've chosen it right, wrong, etc. As long as I've got some function, I'm going to come across here and bingo. Straight away, I'm starting to add stuff in here. I'm starting to bring this image back. And, you know, I want people to see what's in here. Now, you think to yourself, oh, God, that's not quite right. You just grab the slider. You come through and you can adjust it. You can make it brighter. You can make it lighter. Rightio? So you have a lot more control. And then when you're finished, you just press done, come down, have a look at the comparison. And there you go. You can see how dark one was and how quickly I've gone and changed the exposure just in a shadow area and haven't affected any other part of the image. So this is where this tool is really unique. Have a play with it. The more you understand how it works and understand its function, the easier it'll be for you to use as part of your standard workflow.